first, there is no failure for me. Everything is about learning. And I really want our generation to be aware that we are here to redefine work. And redefining work also go through the fact that we have to redefine success, just as you said, and learn to accept and embody what we call failure, just as part of the experiences we need to do to learn and grow into life. So really my message is about our generation redefining work at this period in time.
The art of heart-centered creations is what we're exploring today with Estelle Lovi, a French African artist who used to have an amazing business career, graduated from elite French business schools, only to find herself unhappy, unfulfilled, but also courageous enough to follow her inner soul's calling and courageous to reappear on her stage and then share with others the art of pursuing one's own passion and finding one's own voice. So here we go, another conversation about failure, about matrix, about what we perceive as a success in life and how true success is following one's heart. Yeah. Maybe let's start with how your design into what felt like a failing life path happened. In your TED speech, you mentioned something around knowing that your life is meant for the stage, but still you applied for a business school. And so I'm wondering, how did it happen? How is it that we, as little kids, we are so in tune with what makes our heart sing, what we're the best at, yet somewhere along the way we forget it, only to find ourselves in careers that make us feel exhausted and unaligned and feeling like there's something missing in our lives. What was it that was blocking you from pursuing what you felt deep down was your true path for so many years?
Well, I would say two things about it. First, really about forgetting what your childhood dream is. There is a kind of pressure in our society. Well, it depends on, of course, your family, your education, your background. But where I came from, serious studies was medicine, was law, was business, even though in my family, business was not really, I wouldn't say accepted, but known as a path of career. So naturally, you tend to know, to go where you know, and to encourage your child to do what you know and what you think will be great for them. So most parents are great parents, really, and they just want their children to be happy. And so by doing that, sometimes they think that they have to help them choose a life, a career, a path, while I do think that as children, we are so deeply connected to our heart and to our soul that we know what suits the best to our life experience. So I would say that there is an inner competition when you're growing between what your parents, your environment is waiting from you and what you know and feel and vibrate as a child. And then, yeah, the more you grow, the more likely you are to just get apart and set yourself apart from your dream. And so for me, it was just part of the way and part of the path I had to go through in order to really become aware that I am more than a body, I am more than a mind, I'm a body, a mind, and a soul. And so for me, it's all okay. And it was the perfect path for me to learn through this forgetting and just remembrance of what I wanted to do as a child. And the second thing is business was also a passion for me when I was a children. You know, on Sunday night in France, we have a TV show called Capital, which is about economy. And I was looking at it with my mother, and I was dreaming about being a businesswoman and running a company. So that was also something that was very pregnant into my heart and my soul. And so I guess now that what I did is I chose the path that felt the most acceptable at this time, even though it was not really understood and accepted by my family, because when I told my mother that I wanted to do an economic baccalaureate and go into a business school, she was just like, we don't know this world, we can help you. She was frightened. So it was already being a rebel to my family to dare this choice. But it was most acceptable into my social vision of what I could do as a career. So it was a dream, and I went through it, and I became an executive in a company, and the businesswoman I was dreaming of. And just I realized that something was missing, and now I know that the business part of me is strong, and I love it, but the artist part of me is also strong, and I love it too, and I need to have both parts in my life. So.
Talk to us about that moment or that period of your life a couple of years ago, which allowed you to discover that home again. What was that tipping point or the crisis that you arrived at in your career that allowed you to get reconnected to that talent again?
I was in my career in a company, and I was loving what I was doing, but I was getting very tired. I couldn't find meaning and purpose in what I was doing. And that was special for me because I was working in the organic industry. So that was something that on paper was very perfect. But in the company, there was quite ethical issues and things I wasn't in alignment with. And as a manager, I had to, let's say, make my employee not feel too bad about what was going into the company. And so I was bearing a lot of pressure because I wanted to protect them. And I wasn't aligned anymore with what I was doing and what I was asked to do. And so it became more and more difficult for me. And instead of listening to the first, intuition and inspirations I had, that was telling me that I should just change job or do something else with my life, I began to ask out of myself, outside to other people's. And most of the times when you're not sure about yourself, that's the worst thing you can do, because if you're in doubt, of course, what will come at you is things that will just emphasize your doubts. And so, for example, people told me that it will be the same wherever I would go, that all companies are bad, that I'm lucky because I'm in an executive position. I was free of my time, free of my organization. I had responsibilities. I had a car, a phone, a computer. Well, all the material things that for people are important, but that for me didn't make sense, and it never did. So for me, that wasn't a strong arguments. But you listen to that and you just start doubting even more, and you're just like, am I right? Am I not just the lucky girl, crying, but just not realizing that she's so lucky that she should be happy. And I can just picture again myself washing the dishes and thinking, I'm in the perfect life on paper. I've got a wonderful husband, a wonderful house, the perfect job. I loved my teams. I loved my job per se. And so everything was perfect, but I was feeling empty inside. And that's so hard to explain because people will judge you, just think that you're too lucky to realize that you're lucky. I've got African background too. So of course I was thinking that my life could be far worse if I was in Africa. And so you just put all that and it became part of the equation, while it should not. Yeah. For me now, the only equation that matters, or the only criteria that matters, is my heart. Is it right for me? Just deep inside, is it right for me? If it's yes, I go. If it's no, I don't go. And now that I'm reconnected to that, I don't need to ask others about all that. But at that precise time, on my life, I think I needed to go through that to realize how far you can go from listening to yourself and just feeling lost, confused, because just you embody and become what people want you to become. And for me, that's like the worst thing I can experience, really. I really know that experiencing and living my truth, even through what we call failure, is what I love to do. And even though people don't understand around me, that's okay, really, because these experiences are so dense, intense, and profound for me that really I'd rather fail listening to myself than succeed listening to anybody else, really.
I'd rather fail listening to myself than succeed in listening to others. Wow. By the way, if you're curious to listen to my speech from the Fail conference about my own life journey of learning to embrace failure and learning to look at different life experiences through multiple lenses that we choose on the basis of how we want to be looking at situations, and also on the basis of how others around us are pushing to label something as failure or success. So check out the link in the show notes. So, how did you start listening to yourself? What was it that made the decision possible to leave your previous career? And do you think there could have been something along the way that could have speeded up these realizations, having different people around you or practices or something that would have allowed you to reconnect to this truth earlier in life?
The tipping point for me was a period in time when I was so lost, so confused, so stuck, so stagnant, and I've got a very vivid and moving energy. So when I'm not moving and I don't feel like I'm moving forward in life, I feel very, very bad, and very, very quickly I can, feel overwhelmed and confused. And so when I arrive at this stage of not feeling comfortable inside, I know that I have to do something, because I just can't stay like that, and so I was at this point where when I told myself, 1 year from now, I don't want to be so doubtful, so fearful, so hesitating on everything. I just can't. And so it was about 1 year after deciding to, after having left my company and deciding to launch a new one. And so at this time, when you're, at this, so far in your lostness, your loss maybe, just you listen. You don't have the choice, and so you listen. And I was just like, I'm going to listen to whatever my heart is saying. I don't know what it will be, but I'm going to listen. I have to move forward. And so I guess that at this point, I decided to just remove my rational mind, very powerful brain of the equation, and just listen to my heart. Yeah. I was just like I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to listen to you, because now I want to move forward, and I feel that I have to listen to my heart. And so the first thing that came, and it was just like automatic writing, and so for me now it's normal, but at this time in my life it was just like, okay, whatever, I'm going to try it because that's my last chance. And so I tried. I was just listening, and I heard, and I wrote. What was that? It was written words. You have to write written words. And I was just like, what, why? I don't know, but okay. And so I started to write, and I started to publish a book called, en français, Entreprendre chemin initiatique. I would translate it as entrepreneurship is an initiation. And so I started to write about that. And a couple of months later, I remembered that I wanted to be an artist. And then I went on stage, and then I started singing. So, everything just then clicked and followed through. But this tipping point was just enough is enough. I don't want to be stuck anymore. I don't want to feel lost. Yeah. So I'm going to listen to my heart.
Yeah. But what I find interesting is the B bump, the burnout, where typically in most people's heroes' journeys, you go through this burnout suffering as part of your corporate career, and then that's when you tell yourself enough is enough, because my body should come first, and I'm going to drop that identity, and I'm going to open to the possibilities of discovering the new. But in your case, what's interesting is that the burnout kicked in after you've started following your heart-centered journey. So that's what makes me so curious in what are actually the risks of, plunging, diving deep into whatever you feel like, oh my God, like finally I've discovered it and I know, and I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to give it all because it cannot fail me, because finally I discovered my truth. But in your case, it did, and you found yourself in the midst of another crisis in the hospital again. So what was the failure that happened there along the way of pursuing your new identity?
Well, first, I will say, I have to be honest, that during my corporate end of career, I also had I don't know if it was a burnout, but my body didn't respond anymore. So now I know that burnout, some types of personalities are more likely to do a burnout because we are very intense. And when this intensity is not brought into something that is meaningful and purposeful for us, and when we are not aligned, even while doing something that is meaningful for us, then we have the risk to have a burnout. So first, also at the end of my career in a company, was that body issues that allowed me to realize that I really needed to change, and made me decide to launch my business. So that was the first one. But the second one, you're right, was after having decided to focus on music, and the word focus is important here, and launch my first album. And so, as I mentioned, I'm quite intense, and so I went on it all. We say corps et âme en français, body and soul, and that's really the case for me. And so I learned everything I could about music, about writing, composing, and everything. And I started to write, to compose, and that was my dream life. I went to New York, meet my producer. That was amazing. I was just on top of my world. I was happy, above words. That was perfect. But then I put myself under the pressure of sending my demo into a very, let's say, short span of time that I decided from my brain and mind part. And so I put a lot of pressure on me, even on my dreams. And that's what I'm saying in the conference. You take yourself, the good parts and the bad parts, wherever you go, whatever job you do. So don't think that everything will be different because you will do another job. No, you will learn something, some types or so, some bad, I don't like the label bad, but something that are preventing you from being happy, you will overcome them quite easily and quite quickly. And some things you will have to go through hard times to just realize that you don't want that part of you to be dominant anymore. And so for me, it was the perfectionist part and the part of me that has learned to that hard working is needed to achieve and to succeed. That if I'm not doing things into a very short span of time, it's not good. That if I'm not doing things every day, it's bad. That was a lot of limiting beliefs that I had integrated. Some of them went out quite easily. At the beginning of my listening to my heart path, but then at this time on music, I needed to realize that I was going too far once again, and I was hard on me, hard on my body. I wasn't listening to myself enough, even though I was meditating, I was doing yoga, I was eating healthy food. On paper, once again, everything was perfect, but you can't lie to your soul.
I know this is a little bit of a woohoo subject to talk about failure and success in pursuing your soul, but there's also the other half of our brains thinking about failure when we're in the hardcore business, when we're in the black and white worlds of sports. So this other side is addressed in another part of our series of interviews about failure with Sofia Beloka. So click on the link somewhere around here to counterbalance it with the story of this interview.
But I learned so much about self-healing, about all that I had learned to grow and expand as a soul. Now I could embody it and learn to apply it to my life. Meditate every day, stay focused, stay present, accept to postpone when it's not okay and it's not in your rhythm. And I was obliged to, because I was too tired to do everything. So I was obliged to listen to all that. And so this inner wisdom, I just love so much. I feel so grateful to be able to walk and live with it. I got the chance to apply it into my life and to climb the emotional scale from anxiety, depression, and all the bad thoughts you can have in such a hard time in life, to finding inner peace and joy again. And now looking back to these past months, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. It wasn't easy, but I'm grateful.
Check out all the links in the descriptions to the other parts of this series. I'll be looking forward to your comments and likes, and share it with whoever in your surroundings might be tortured a little bit by the mainstream perception of success. This might be a little bit of a liberation for them. And obviously click on the subscribe and follow buttons depending on where you're listening to this, either Lucia Kleszczyńcowa on YouTube or Lights on Europe on all podcast channels.